History at Murray State University, and for the Marshall County Library with branches in Benton, Hardin, and Calvert City. We're visiting in the home today of Miss Minnie Thweatt, and she tells me she is how old, Miss Thweatt?
99, this last February the 24th. April, I mean.
April the 24th, you were 99 years?
99. I was
So
born in
you're-
1884.
You're rolling on toward that 100 mark.
Yeah.
Well, that is wonderful. Let me be congratulate you on that.
Now, that's my age.
You know, a lot of people are interested in genealogy, so one of the first things we ask folks is if they remember their father's and mother's name, which of course you will, and as far back as you can go, your grandparents or even your great-grandparents.
Well, my mother was named, they called her Matt, but her name was Martha Ellen, but she went by the name of Matt.
What was her maiden name?
Sanders.
All right.
Dick Sanders was her daddy, but that's as far as I know. Her mother, she died before I was born, but I do remember my granddad on her side. He died when I guess I was about 4 or 5 years old.
What about your father?
Well, he was, his name's Robert Rose, and his mother, and you want to know them?
Yes, if you remember.
Well, his mother was York, Margaret York. And she married, his daddy's name was William Henry Rose, and that's who she married.
You know, that's amazing. That takes us way back before Marshall was a county.
Oh, yes. Yes.
In fact, we didn't start till 1842.
The courthouse used to be here at Wadesboro.
Wadesboro,
Yeah.
right you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I lived at Wadesboro as a little boy when I was 5 years old, and there was still one store there that Paul Holland ran, and there was a Dr. Covington that lived there.
Yeah, that was our doctor. Gus Covington
Yes.
was our doctor.
And of course everybody remembers Caddy Brown.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well that's very good. Did you happen to go to a one-room school, Miss
Yeah,
Reed?
right down here, I don't guess it's over half a mile, right down here on Jackson School Road. One-room school.
Was the name of it Jackson?
Yeah, the name of it, Jackson School.
So that, no doubt, was named for General Jackson, President Andrew Jackson,
Might
I
have been.
suppose.
I don't know.
Anyway, that sounds logical, and Jackson had a lot of supporters in this part of the world.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of your teachers?
Jimmy Chester was my first teacher, a 6-year-old.
You remember the very first one,
That's
Jimmy Chester.
And I had one, you want to know them all?
All you can remember.
I had one as a Wilson, but I don't know his first name, but he is Wilson. And then I had one that is, thought his name a while ago, but I can't think of it right now.
Well, the fact that you remembered the very first one is better than many people do.
That's Jimmy Chester, my first teacher. I was 6-year-old.
I went to college at Murray with a girl named Martha Brooks Chester.
Yeah, I know her.
She was sort of a brewer's eye, as I remember.
Yeah, well, this teacher was from Brewers. And, wasn't a daddy, but I can't think of his name right now. Well, anyhow, I'll go on to Buddy Jones. He's my teacher. And Brack Stark was my teacher. And Amos Copeland. You might know Amos. Amos was my next class teacher. I married while I was going to him.
I don't remember him, but I wish I had.
Well, he's...
What did you like most in school?
Well, I liked spelling.
Did they have spelling bees back then?
We'd choose out. They'd one side choose here and the other over there, and we'd stand up and spell. And me and Mary Putman was she was on one side and I was on the other, and I turned her down. I believe on Mississippi is what we spelled.
M-I-double-S-I-double-S-I-double-P-I.
Yeah, she missed it. She missed one word in there, and I believe
That was a tough one.
Oh, that killed her. She thought she'd beat me at spelling. Well, now, we had spelling part of the time with definitions. We had to give the definitions to them words, you see. I
Yes.
don't guess you remember any of them. They're way back yonder.
Well, I went to a one-room school, started in the fall of 1927 at a place called Blakely. It's a little north of Wadesboro, south in Callaway County.
Yeah,
Although I was born near Hardin.
yeah. Well, I was born right down Shoals Creek on Jackson School Road.
Well, you know, that was the earliest settled place in the county, and the first preacher there, Henry Clay Darnell, was the first preacher of any kind in all the Jackson Purchase. He was a primitive Baptist.
He preached. He was Shoals Creek is Primitive Baptist, you know.
I believe he's buried there.
I guess he is, probably.
Well, he started quite a clan. There are lots of Darnells in Marshall County.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so you liked spelling.
Yeah, I like spelling
And,
better than anything else.
A number of people told me they liked recess. Did you like recess?
No, well, very well.
What did
We
you
had
play?
I had one teacher that he slept all the time. He had him a chair, and he had his overcoat doubled in that chair, and he sat in there and he'd sleep during the school hours, you know, when we was in there. Well, he turned us out at 12 o'clock. Go out and eat lunch. We had to take our lunch. No way to have lunch. Take it. Well, we went out and took ate our lunch, and we got out there and played, hollered and screamed, and he never did wake up. When time comes to go home, why we woke him up 4 o'clock. It's time for us to go home. And he says, "Don't go home and tell your parents this." But we did. That's the first thing I told my parents.
Well, of course.
Yeah, he sat there and slept. We didn't have no school that evening. Of course, we're satisfied with it. Us kids was, you know.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we
You
could play.
thought it was funny then.
Yeah, we could play. Yes, we
I
could
guess
play.
the parents who paid the salary were not quite as happy.
His name was Barnhart. That's who he was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Barnhart. I remember now.
Well, that's an interesting story. I never heard one just like that before. We're glad to get it.
Well, that shows the truth.
All right. When you finished school, did you have graduation ceremonies and things like that?
No.
Then? Just
No.
They said you were finished.
Yes, whenever you went long enough to teach school, you went down there to Jackson School. Nina Rudd made a teacher, and she didn't go nowhere on that school down there.
Well, now, how did they get that teacher's certificate? They
I
didn't go
don't
to
know
college.
even whether they had a certificate or not. I've never seen one if they did. I don't know.
Well, I've heard some older people say that they went to the county seat and the superintendent gave them a test.
Well, now, she might have done this. I
That
don't
if you
know.
made 85, you could teach.
Mhm.
They gave you a teacher.
Well, I know she taught school. She's the only one that I can remember that made a teacher down there, you know.
Well, you know, a lot of those teachers were good.
Yeah. Well, she taught. I think she taught till she died.
I always said we learn more in those little schools than they do in these big fine ones, because
Yeah.
now you have all the students in a room, and then I went through the 8th grade 8 different years. From
Well, I
the
guess
first grade on, I heard it all, you know.
I guess she did too. Now.
Did you march up to a bench at the front of the room and recite,
Well,
then pass back to your seat? And
no, I don't think so. I don't believe we did.
that's the way we did when I went to school.
I don't think we did.
They'd say, 3rd grade arithmetic, please pass.
Uh-huh.
And we'd march up to the front, and we'd sit down on this bench, and we would, that class would last maybe 10 minutes. Of course, the teacher had to get in 8 grades, and
Yeah.
in the
You
upper
had one.
grades there were 6, 7 subjects. What all did you study? Do you
Well,
remember?
I studied arithmetic and spelling and reader.
And you probably had, at least when I went, we had a course in geography and one in history, and that is in the upper grades.
Mhm.
We'd have health, I believe, hygiene they called it then.
Yeah.
So the teacher didn't have a lot of time to fiddle around.
No, he
except
just had one teacher with the whole bunch, you know.
I've just learned of one who took a nap, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
He slept all the time during school hours when we was in school.
Well, I never
Most of the time.
had that experience. Do you remember any of the games you played on the schoolyard?
Oh, yes, we played stink base and ball and steel.
What was stink base like?
Well, we'd have a pile of wood here and a pile over there, and there'd be two bunches of them, you know, two different bunches. Well, if you caught one on the other bunch, you put on that pile of wood, and that's stink based.
Mm-hmm.
caught it before it got back to its base, you know. Like that
you,
stink.
you scored a point, and he lost a point.
Yeah, that's what it went.
Okay.
Yeah, and we played ball and hopscotch and.
Did they ever get you in a game that I can kind of remember? Sometimes it got pretty rough. They called it crack the whip.
No, I don't believe so. I
And,
can't remember it.
They'd put the least children on the very end, and they'd be on the popper.
Yeah, I've seen that played, but I don't think we ever played that.
Sometimes it just about jerk you in two.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of those. Did you ever make a hickory bark whistle?
Yeah.
We had fun even though we couldn't buy Fisher Price toys.
No, we didn't have no toys.
Just made them yourself. You had, I guess, maybe a rag doll.
Yeah. Me and my sister, there's three of us, and I was the middle one. I had a brother that was nearly 4 years older than me, and I had a sister that was nearly 3 years younger than me. And me and her'd get a doll every Christmas. And we get oranges, and we get apples, and we get candy, and chewing gum. And that's the only time we had anything like that was Christmas. We didn't have any other time on Christmas, but we'd get a doll. I had my last doll when I married, and I brought it, and it's still in the cellophane, you know, pretty doll. And I gave it to my first kid to play with, and he tore it up.
Oh, isn't that terrible?
Yeah,
What boys will do.
that's right.
Well, when you finished school and then you were a young lady, could you tell us anything about courting customs back then? What you did?
Well, not too much, 'cause I married young. I wasn't quite 16. Well, I married in November, and I wouldn't have been 16 till April.
Mm-hmm.
And I married, Amos Copeland was teaching out of school when I married. I married before school was out.
How did young people amuse themselves, or even just folks in the neighborhood?
Well, when they went to court, they courted at home. They wasn't out like they are now. They stayed at home, in the parlor, they called it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they wasn't out like they are now.
They didn't get in quite as much trouble
No,
that
they sure didn't. You had to stay at home.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't get out.
I was wondering about a custom. It seems I've heard some people say that they'd go to one another's house and sit till bedtime.
Yeah, we've done that a lot. We've done that a lot.
How did the hostess entertain you?
Oh,
then?
they entertained. That was just funny as it could be. To go
You
to
make,
the neighbor's house and sit till bedtime.
You made
sometimes.
popcorn balls?
Sometimes take your work knit with you. You take your quilt pieces, or you take your knitting, or something like that, you know.
But you could sit and talk and socialize.
That's right.
You didn't have
Sure.
a TV set to dominate.
No, no radio or nothing.
Uh-huh.
No electrician or nothing.
What did you said you got married young. What did your husband do?
Well, he farmed.
Nearly everybody in Marshall County was Marshall County
Yeah,
when
we
you started housekeeping.
Yeah, it sure was. I born Marshall
Well,
County.
how much did you have when you started out? Did
Oh,
you have
yeah.
a big brick house and
No,
carpets
just
about a foot deep?
Two-room house. Just 2 rooms on the front porch. That's what we had.
Didn't
I
even have
went to housekeeping. It was $25.
$25.
$25. We bought a cook stove. We bought chairs. We bought a bed. We bought a safe. Put the dishes in. Bought dishes.
Mhm.
for $25. That's what it cost us.
Where did you go to get them?
Hardin. I believe we got most of them in Hardin.
There were big stores there then.
Yeah. There's a wood stove, you know. There's a cook good too.
Those things made biscuits and cornbread.
Yes, it did.
And they had eyes, didn't they? Where you could. Did you have a black cast iron dinner kettle?
Yeah, sure did.
And you'd take that eye out and
Set that dinner kettle down
put
there.
some Kentucky Wonder green beans in
No,
there,
and
and
a great big piece of bacon in with the bottom of it, you know, and they was really good.
cook them about 5 hours and get all the water out.
Yeah, be nothing in the bottom but grease, you might say.
But that would be real eating.
Yeah, that was good.
I've eaten some of that.
There's good.
How long was it before you got a automobile? You didn't have a car when you married, did you?
Never did have one. Till after my husband died, me and my boy stayed there together. And Haskell Staples lived down there close, and he had one he wanted to sell. And I told this boy, he was crippled up, and I told him to go down there and tell Haskell to bring it up there. And he brought it up there, and I bought it from him. I gave him either $130 or $35.
You remember what kind it was?
I believe it's Chevrolet.
About what year was that? Do you have any idea?
That was, Headley was likely to be 14-year-old when his daddy died. And he was 16 then. And he's be 58 22nd of this month.
Were the roads real good, or were there still some of them that were dirt? Gravel roads.
Yeah, gravel roads. It's blacktop now, but where I live, but it wasn't then. It's just gravel roads. And I bought the car from him, and we had no way to go anywhere. Just me and him lived there by ourselves. And I told him to go down there and tell Haskell to bring it up there, and I want to talk to him about it. And he brought it up there, and I bought it from him.
What were the general crops that you grew on the farm?
Well, tobacco and hay and corn and strawberries.
And those were your money crops and so on. You had a big garden, I suppose?
Yeah, we did. But with no way to keep it on, just can the stuff. We canned the stuff.
In other words, you didn't have a freezer back
Oh, no,
then.
we didn't have no electricity. No.
You remember when electricity came around?
No, I don't exactly.
REA was organized, I believe, and built the first lines in '39, but a lot...
Well, I guess it's about that, I guess. It was later than that before we had any.
We didn't have any where I lived, just out of Hardin, until '47.
Well, I guess it's pretty close to that when we had electricity, too. I had the house wired, and Tony Yates wired it. Now, you may know Tony Yates.
Yes, I do know him.
Well, he wired it. And that's the first electricity I had.
I remember my mother said to me, son, I don't want anything but lights and an iron and a refrigerator. And so then the next year I bought her a washer and an electric stove. And she didn't want that electric stove. She said it'll never cook biscuits like a wood range. Did you have a big fancy stove with a warming closet and a water reservoir on it?
I had one with a warming closet. I didn't on the start. I just had a little box stove, you know.
I started to say my mother's first stove was just a box stove.
Mine was too. It was just a 4-eye box stove.
Bought it from Ted Pace at Hardin.
I guess that's who we bought ours from. I believe it was. Anyhow, we got this Hardin, and I guess we got from Ted because we done most of our shopping at Ted's.
Did you can a lot of things in the summer?
No, nothing on blackberries and green beans.
Home canning was, I guess, sort of dangerous in a way. For certain things, you could get botulism.
Yeah.
But you picked blackberries.
Did
you ever hear of chiggers?
Yes, plenty of them. If I went blackberry picking, I put me on some breeches and I tied them down to the bottom and I sprayed coal oil down there.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps it off.
They hurt me worse than anything that ever
terrible.
came around, it seemed like.
My boy, my baby, he picked blackberries one year, and he got sugared all over him. He never slept none that night. He'd get 'em, go in the bathtub and try to get them off, and he had to go to the doctor the next day.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't sleep any.
Did you ever run up on a snake when you were picking?
Yes. I'm afraid of them things, too.
Yeah. I remember one time my mother had a glass nest egg in the nest,
Yeah.
and
I've
a
had
big chicken snake swallowed that glass egg. Oh, he had a knot on him there. Of course, we killed it.
We had a snake that we had a paling fence around the house, and the snake tried to go through. Well, it swallowed the egg, and it couldn't get through that part of it, about,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that fur down. And I got in a hole and killed that snake.
Did you ever shoot a gun?
No, never shot a gun in my life.
Didn't go hunting.
No.
Uh,
I'd go with Hedley, my baby one, me and him lived there together. I'd go with him out in the woods there. I had big woods back behind our house. And he'd want me to go with him and turn the squirrels for him. He'd kill squirrels. He'd want me to go with him, and I'd go with him and turn the squirrels, but I never shot a gun in my life. I was always afraid of them.
homes were pretty much self-sufficient then. You grew corn. I guess you took corn to mill, and you got meal.
And the wheat to meal and got the flour.
Got your flour.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
so you didn't need to buy much except
No.
salt and soda,
Mhm.
sugar,
And
baking
coffee.
powder, coffee.
Yeah. And coffee was 15 cents a pound. Soda was a nickel. Box of soda was a nickel.
Let me ask you, did you ever make any grandma's lye soap?
Yes, plenty of it. Made me a hopper. I had a trough down here, and I had plank up like this, and put ashes in it. And then,
You made your own lye then, didn't you?
yeah, and I've made it by boat lye too. But this, I'd pour water in the spring. I'd start pouring water on this. I'd stay there in the winter. I'd cover it up to keep from raining in it, Well, that lye dripped out and is red, and I'd make soap with that. That's soft soap. But this boat lye, I've made hard soap with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I made soap.
I never saw anyone make homemade lye, but Mother always bought Mary War powdered lye. It was
Yeah.
in a can,
Mm-hmm, yeah.
and it was a yellowish-looking soap. It was hard, though.
Yeah. Well, this is it's kind of red looking, made out of that lye.
Did you ever worm tobacco?
Oh yes, plenty of it.
Sucker?
Suckers too.
You got gum on your
Yeah,
hands.
and on your clothes too. Hard to get off your hands.
It's hard to tell younger people now, some of them.
Yeah, and all the washing I ever done is done on a washboard.
You had an old brass board, and you...
Well, the last one I had was a glass one.
Mhm. I know I used to have to, Dad would say, now, son, you draw the water for your mother and build the fire around the wash kettle. And sometimes I'd have to stir the clothes,
Yeah,
take a knife and a bar of soap and shave it up. And
yeah. Put you in there.
one thing about it, though, it got those clothes clean.
Yes, it did. We didn't think you'd get them clean unless we boiled them,
Mhm.
Well, I did like them boiled because if there's anything on them that any catching anything, that killed it all. I like them boiled. Well, we don't boil. They don't.
Do you
boil.
remember enough about how you made lye soap to tell a little bit about it? Besides, now you told us how you made the lye, but what did you have to make soap?
Well, I had to have so much grease to so much lye.
Mhm.
So much grease.
If you had a can of lard that was getting rancid over from the previous year, cracklings.
Too. Yeah. Made out of that. Yes, I loaned a person a 2-gallon bucket of lard. We'd kill hogs, and they bought a can that's old.
Tell us about hog killings, too.
Well, we used to kill our hogs. We killed 4. But that didn't do us. We had to buy some meat. That wasn't enough when the family's all at home. We had.
How many children did you have?
I had 8, but we raised 7. I had one to die when he was 6 months and 12 days old. That's been 70 a year or longer.
Families were much larger then.
Yeah, I've got my oldest boy's dead now. I've got 3 boys and 3 girls living now. This girl here is my baby girl. But I've got a boy that's younger.
What's her name?
Ernestine.
And she married?
Alfred Staples.
And you live here with them?
Well, I just stay here about 2 weeks at a time. I've got.
And you go to some of the other children?
Yes, I do.
They have a lovely home here.
Yeah, well, this is Alfred Staples. He's who was talking to you when you called. And my boy that lives in Michigan, he's been up there. I guess his baby one would be 20-year-old in October. And he was just, he wasn't about a year and a half old when they moved up there.
You remember your first train ride?
Yes, I do. Went to Dawson Springs. No, wait. I went to Oak Station down here on my first train ride. Never have had but 2. Went to Oak Station. You may not know where that's at. It's about 10 miles out to Duke out south.
I started to say it wasn't terribly far from Simpsonia, was it?
No, it
on
wasn't.
the NC in St. L.
Yeah, I guess it was.
Yeah.
Well, that's my first train ride.
Then later you went all the way to Dawson Springs.
Yes. My husband was crippled up, and he went up there to stay a week, and I went with him.
Oh, they took the waters back then.
Yeah. Yeah, we ordered the water for a long time, 5 gallons at a time, you know. And the doctor wanted him to go up there and stay a week, and I went with him.
Do you remember anything about early churches in this area?
Yeah. Wow.
Are any of them that were churches around that have disappeared?
My grandmother went to Soldier Creek.
Yes, sir.
And I'd go with her. We had to walk. I guess it's about 2 miles. And she'd ask me to go with her. Well, we'd pack our shoes till we get near to there. There's a little stream of water before we get there. And I guess about 30 minutes at this house over here. And she'd have on a prettiest white apron and a prettiest bonnet. Well, she'd put her rag in that apron pocket. And we'd sit down there and wash our feet and put our shoes on. Them times you didn't get many shoes. 2 pair a year is all you got. You got a pair in the fall and a pair in the spring. And we had to take care of them. Well, we'd go barefoot until we got to that stream of water. And we'd sit down there on a rock and wash our feet. And we'd dry them on that rag she had in her pocket. And we'd put our shoes and stockings on and go on to church.
A marvelous slice of early life.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your telling that.
That is,
Was there ever a church at Wadesboro when you were young? Or had they already disappeared?
I don't remember any church there.
I'm sure there were in the real early days, but
Yeah.
of course it quit being the county seat in 1842, and that's a long, long time ago.
1842, that's when it was? Well, I've heard my daddy talk about it being county seat. I remember George Vatham having a store there. My husband bought material from him to make me a dress, and he'd always get red. He never bought nothing for me unless it had red in it. And,
Did you like red?
I had to.
You didn't have much choice.
No, you didn't get many. And you had to like red, but you didn't. Yeah, I don't mind red too much. I've got a red dress now I wear.
Well, that's fine. You know this half hour has slipped away in a tremendous hurry. Is there anything else you'd like to specially put on the tape before we quit?
Well, I don't think of anything right now. I don't believe.
What do you like about life the most that's changed since you were young? conveniences, maybe?
Yes,
Or?
the convenience is mighty nice, and that's about all I can think of.
What do you miss the most from the early days?
I miss being home.
Home's the greatest word in the world, isn't it?
That's right.
John Howard Payne wrote a song, There's No
Yeah.
Place Like Home.
There ain't no place like home. Kids is good to me, but that ain't like being home.
No.
No. I stayed home till my youngest one. Well, he graduated down here at Brewers, and then he was crippled up, and he went down here at Paducah to the
Crippled Children's Center?
No, he's going to school down there. He got crippled up when he was 9-year-old. We never did know. I believe he had polio, because his left half of his leg's not as big as the other, and I believe he did. But he works. He can't do hard work.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Michigan. He's Baptist preacher.
Thank you very much, Miss Thweatt. It's been a real pleasure to me to visit with you.
Well,
Thanks for talking. I'm Ray Mofield. We're doing these tapes for the State Archives in Frankfort.